What's up? And welcome to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show, coming to you live from Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia, on the Wylde Style Network, fueled by Monster Energy.
Love it, man. It's nice to hear all of that again.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
A little bit of a gap, eh?
Yeah, like the radio lead in, hearing you introduce the show feels like home.
Yeah.
Love it. It's been a month.
Easily a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the saying goes, as those kids say, it's been a minute.
Yeah. It has been a minute.
Yeah.
So, I've been doing a little bit of, I know you were on a longer trip, but a little work travel, some stuff going on.
I was in Portugal.
How was it?
It was amazing. I was in a resort town called Cacil, and Lou would have loved it because they were very Portuguese on that beach. It was very I think that we would stereotype it here in the States as being in Brazil with the beach attire that was out there, or the lack of beach attire that was out there.
Not bad.
Right.
Exactly. Like that idea.
Yeah. But I guess, Brazil got it somewhere. They got it honest. They got it from Portugal.
Where's the pictures?
I would have been the creepy American taking pictures. Right. Out on that beach. But yeah. So I went there. I guess another highlight was Nazaré. You saw the documentary 100-Foot Wave on HBO Max. I guess is where it started, but these things bounce around. So big wave surfing happens there. It was a slick surf town, very quaint, low key still. It's not a corporate surf town, there were genuine, low key surf shops there with real surf people. And then they had a little monument, on the cliff sides lighthouse that kind of watches over this big wave surfing. All the big wave surfers that have hit it there that were on that show. So
awesome. That
was very cool for me.
Awesome.
I think it was probably the two biggest highlights I was really vacationing in Nazaré where I was kind of working in Cacil. I just had the right place to stay in, I guess.
Nice.
It made it feel like a resort.
Catch any Portuguese death metal bands or anything while
there was one invitation that I got. I was working at some of the schools that were over there. And, of course, I met some of the teachers that were in there. And I just couldn't be in town that night. But he played in what he called a funk metal band. And he was playing downtown on a Saturday night that I was leaving to go to another town, Porto. And I would have loved to have seen that.
Right.
But I didn't get there. And I was dying to go, but it just didn't work out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I was on a work trip last week in Boston, but went down to Nashville. So
yes,
first time I've been to Nashville since the whole kind of Broadway scene blew up there.
I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah. So it was an interesting couple of days.
Yeah.
Went to Kid Rock's bar.
Yeah. I got a text on that.
I know you did.
Yeah. And you were listening to good stuff. You listened to covers?
It was all covers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. And so the first night when I sent you that text and video, and it, just about every one of those honky tonks you go into, the bands are like, "Oh, we'll take your requests," and you have to dump some money into the bucket. And they're like, "But there are certain songs that it's $100 minimum on the request," which was Free Bird was one of them. And Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Because what was interesting, there was a lot more rock than I was expecting in all these bars. I figured it'd be mostly country. But and then the one band that was playing, Kid Rock's bar, it's 4 floors, so there's a band on each floor.
Wow.
So we went up to the top floor, and the band that was playing that night, and it was and our third song, which we've got a woman who wants to hear it, is Crazy Bitch.
Oh, all right.
Buck Cherry. That was $100 request.
Was that Ashley Rose requesting Crazy Bitch?
I was about to ask the same thing.
it may have been,
right.
It kind of makes sense, right? Because there's so many bachelorette parties that are going on there,
right.
That I think that was a group that was on a bachelorette party, and so people ended up throwing a couple 20s in, and they played it. But the next day we went and we did the secret food tour thing, but the woman that was doing the tour
at Kid Rock's bar, did you do the secret
food? No. But kind of talked about how she's in the music business. She's trying to break through as a singer.
Yeah.
And so we were asking, are you going to perform on Broadway? And she's like, no, the musicians that want to try and make it in the industry don't perform there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how all of the bands that perform there, they aren't bands. So I guess there's a booking conglomerate that books the bands in these bars.
Wow.
And it's mostly session players that just show up.
Right.
And they run them in
Hit their covers.
Yep. They run them in 2 shifts, and it's, whatever. So it's like 4-hour shifts. So it's like 6 p.m. to 10.
Right.
And then every bar, there's a break.
Huh.
The one band stopped. We're like, oh, let's go over and check out this bar. And we walk in and no music.
Yeah.
Everybody's tearing down. Then the next crew rolls in, and they all have their phones on their mic stands.
Yeah.
And in between songs, they're like, well, I think we should play this song.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know that one. And then, but it was like 4 or 5 different people that have never played together.
Wow.
And just perform.
It's like jazz improv.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But, the musicianship was amazing. They were all like super, super talented.
Sure.
But it was, big mix of rock and country. So it was a good time.
If you were here at the Salisbury Center, you're going to get this question. Did anybody offer up $40 to hear Roadhouse Blues?
They did not.
Because that happened to Jimmy Haha here at Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Yep.
And yeah, somebody did like throw up some 20s. Jimmy shot it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were there with Riley, my youngest son, and he wanted to hear a song.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
So he went and threw a couple bucks in and told him, I want to hear a Zach Bryan song. And the guy goes, oh, we have a request for Zach Bryan, but I'm going to play Luke Bryan instead. Like, thanks for the donation, man.
Right on, Riley.
So that was a good weekend trip, and
Cool.
so we're back at it now.
I know. Back at the show, and like the theme of the show tonight are covers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got a bottoms up version of
We haven't done bottoms up in a while.
Nope.
So like, you want to talk about that a little bit? You want to talk about the covers? You want to get into some more news?
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it.
Well, because what I was going to ask you before we get into our selections, I found this very difficult.
Oh, it was very hard.
Okay, good. That's not just me, because I thought it was the most difficult bottoms up to plan for. Because there's songs,
Right.
as opposed to like bands or even like a discography, of a band, which we've done with Metallica.
Right.
It's just so much more limited. The pool was just crazy wide.
It was, and I found myself, I kind of narrowed it down to 10 or 12 or some odd cover tunes that I really like.
Yeah.
And then it was virtually, with the exception of a couple of spots, virtually impossible to put them in a ranked order.
Right.
So it's like, so it'll be interesting.
Right. Yeah, I know. So and then also, what was your criteria for a good cover? This was also like tough for me.
Well, for me, the way I approached it was a song that resonated to me, that in looking back at the original version, I thought was, in my opinion, better than the original version.
Better than the original version. Better in terms of how they interpreted the song, or the I guess the musicianship of the song, or both.
Both, really. It was really, well, yeah, I mean, I think that it translated well for the band that was performing it. And there's one that I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into it. But the other thing was, there were some great covers that it had to be the band. So there were a number of songs that I really liked that are cover tunes. And, for example, Under My Wheels, which Guns N' Roses did. It was on the Decline of the Western Civilization soundtrack.
Yeah.
But they did it with Alice Cooper.
Yes. Yeah. So that eliminated it, from your criteria that they had help from the originator.
Correct.
I get it.
So how about you? What was yours?
I think my main criteria was if they had a good song, but they made it sound like the band wanted it to sound. It was the interpretation. So it was the interpretation according to their style, their musicianship, and then even changing the context and the tone of the song. I think I appreciated that more than anything, and that's where I based my selections.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, of course, it's hard. I really wrestled with personal preference, because there's a lot of songs that I really just love that maybe have not met that definition, just because I just love the song and may have sounded just like an exact version of that song,
Right.
just by a different band. So I steered away from that, but that was hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of the ones that I have are in that criteria as well. You know, the band, it fits their style, their musicianship, the way they perform, and in some cases, I think is better than the originals.
So what you're saying is that you have no songs from the Glowing Embers because they're an album quality tribute to the Age of Ruin.
That is correct.
They would not qualify under all of that criteria. The Glowing Embers.
Yes.
All right. All right, there we go.
But who knows?
Sorry, Daniel.
You know, we've seen a lot of Daniel's posts recently. They're in the studio recording, so maybe they're going to put out another cover on what they're recording.
You have to wonder if that's what the Age of Ruin is doing. What then is Glowing Embers doing? You know, in response to that.
They're covering themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, before we get into that, excuse me, there are a couple news items that came up that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, let's get to the news.
Yeah,
we haven't done news. Like, is this old news? Because it's been so long since we talked.
I think some of it's I think it's relatively new, but
yeah, I think we have ongoing news.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing, you shared the link yesterday. So Lynch Mob has announced that they're in the planning stages of their farewell tour.
Yes.
Now it's unclear whether that's just farewell for the band.
Yes.
There's a little bit in the release that came out on, I think Blabbermouth posted it, Loudwire, you know, a bunch of the internet groups have shared it. Gives some grayness in terms of it may just, you know, George may go off and do some new stuff.
Right.
But Lynch Mob, I think it's 35 years since the first Wicked Sensation came out. And so they've just decided they're calling it quits, which for me, I thought was a little surprising because they just released a new album. That, you know, when I saw them at Tally Ho, they played 2 or 3 songs off of it. They were great. Haven't got to dig into the full recording yet, but I got the impression that, you know, these guys were churning it up and they were, you know, we're going to be sticking to it and going out on tour. And now it sounds like
maybe not.
Yeah.
And well, the weird piece of that news is that there's limited tour dates. There's only like 3 or 4 shows that right now, as of this day in late October 28th, is few and far between. And this is supposed to happen in January. So it's only a month or 2 away. So we're still kind of waiting to see how this final tour forms and where we can see it. Because I'm not sure where we can see it.
Well, you have to figure they're probably going to be on M3.
Yeah. Well, but I thought it was supposed to end in March.
Oh, I thought it said through 2025.
Oh, well, that was it. I missed a digit. So this is a longer tour than. Yeah, this could be a prolonged.
When they don't have any dates yet,
it's
I
like
guess
a campaign.
You got to book them.
Right, exactly.
You know, so that's going to be interesting. But the other couple of things that I'm very excited about is next week, there's 2 huge releases coming out. And one of them I think we've talked a little bit about, but Dirty Honeys.
I was waiting for you to go to this. I'm curious to see how much we're going to talk about Dirty Honey like all day long today.
I mean, obviously you'll be able to talk a little bit more about them after next week. But, but yeah, I'm very excited for the new album. They've released 3 tunes.
You are a fan, my brother.
Awesome.
You are a fan.
I am.
I am too. So I get it.
And yeah, I you know, obviously we're approaching the end of the year and we'll do some look backs on shows we've been to and maybe albums and stuff that come out. But
I'm glad you brought that up because that is creeping up on us.
It is.
And it's also creeping up. That's going to be the year anniversary of our first podcast because that happened in and around of New Year's of this year. So we have to kind of do like a good year-end wrap-up. So if you're regular followers and watchers, we're going to do something special for that. I've already got some ideas cooking. And it also helps that Mr. Salisbury out there he's Mr. Christmas also. So it's his time of year. He feels it.
It is.
And he brings it. He brings the festivities. So, you know, between an annual celebration for this show, a year-end celebration of all the great music we've heard and seen, and then Mr. Christmas out there, it should be on, you know, inside of this room.
Yeah, so I think that the Dirty Honey album is definitely going to be one of my top albums of the year.
You already got it pegged.
I got it pegged
with the 3 songs. That's
3
enough.
songs. It's Yeah, it's
Love it.
great stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then the one that I'm really interested in listening to is Mick Mars's solo album is
Yeah.
coming out
Yeah.
next Tuesday on Halloween. It's being released. So I'm sure
Perfect for Mick.
perfect for
date,
Mick.
perfect timing.
And supposedly, we've talked about the Motley drama and all of that stuff.
Ongoing news. There's another ongoing news.
Yep.
piece.
And supposedly a number of the songs speak to some of that
bet.
too. So
Bet.
it's going to be an interesting listen and see what other kind of drama spins up out of that.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen a lot of great summer shows, that's for sure. And we have a few more here, like to close out the year. And I am catching Dirty Honey. You just mentioned that.
Yep.
In another 10 days up in Baltimore. So I get to see, that's going to be after the release of that album. So that will be the tour to support that album. So I'm curious as to how much new material they're going to play that night.
Well, it's a headlining set, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
previous, maybe some of the smaller venues they've headlined, but the last big tour they were on, they co-headlined
Right.
with Mammoth WVH. So
Yeah.
I assume it's going to be a longer set.
Right.
Probably a lot of the new stuff and maybe a few of their covers.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And, I think they got some good swag too. I've seen a couple of posts. They
Always, man. They got a great logo.
They have the new album and they've signed, all the members have signed the album, which
Right.
you can pick up. So
Right.
yeah, it's going to be a good time.
I'm looking
which
up.
I was going.
I'm just like kicking into new shows. Okay, so my other show that like I'm hitting next month is Wolf Mother. So like, that's another like just a great Australian band that I'm fired up in that. And like really that's going to close out the year for me.
Yep.
Other than like local shows that of course I'll see here at the Salisbury Center.
Yeah, which we have a few of those coming up as well. On November 17th, Medicine Man and the Darby Brothers are going to be here.
Yes.
And then the next night is on the 18th, the Reflex 80s tribute band will be here.
It'll be our 10th high school reunion.
Times 3.
and a half.
Damn, I even threw in the half.
So that's going to be, that'll be a good night too. A lot of friends and hopefully we can maybe get the Reflex in here and talk to them for a bit.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then, I'm sure he won't be here, but, we could get, some of our classmates and maybe have a little chat up and reminisce on old times and
Old shows.
shows.
Do you remember like
Get Baby Ray stepping in for Damon, doing his interviews.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to
exactly.
say. I'm not sure Damon will make it up, but
But maybe he will in a
Maybe.
different form.
yeah.
Yeah. So like, you out of one of our yearbooks, I remember that I think they were ranking either tours or albums, and I remember the Scorpions with "Love at First Sting" because they were touring off "Love." That was like the top spot, like in our day, and we don't talk about the Scorps enough because they're not really touring anymore. No. That's a bummer because they were amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I guess they do a lot of it still, a little bit in Europe, but a lot of the festivals.
Right,
They
right.
released that album earlier this year, or maybe on the end of 2022, which was pretty good.
Sure.
So I would love for them to come back over and do a
course.
US tour.
Of course. Yeah. 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 So there we go. So there's some other local shows then.
Yep. And then on December the 2nd, again, here at the Salisbury Center, Night Train International, who
Yes.
we chatted up those guys not too long
Al.
ago with Al.
Al, Al without the X, Axel with the X.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll chat them up again. We'll get them up.
Yeah, that's going to be a good show too. So looking forward to some of those, and come on out and check out some live music at the Salisbury Center.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got everything: rock, country, Christmas, 80s,
I'm surprised you didn't put
all
Christmas
the important
first.
ones.
Yeah. When is what's the date again on the Trans-Siberian Orchestra? tribute?
December 8th.
December 8th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right.
And EDM in January.
Oh, I thought I heard that right when you were talking about a little comedy EDM mix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Take a little quick break and come back with Bottoms Up.
All right. Let's unveil these cover selections.
All right.
Difficult.
We'll be right back on the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show.
Woo!